Hello, I'm Toilet Vodka, and welcome to the second installment of the No Man's Sky Guide series. In this video, we have a lot of information to cover. There are still a lot of tips and tricks interspersed throughout, so make sure you pay attention for the entirety of the video. With that being said, we're going to cover the anomaly, how to get there, progressing through more of the main quest, more warps, nanites, and a ton of other information. So buckle up and let's get ready to learn a ton more about No Man's Sky. So at this point, you've completed your first warp. Once you got to the other side of that warp, you found a new system at your fingertips, and the first bit of guidance that you get is to land on one of the nearest planets as soon as you warp. So you'll find that planet, whatever it is, land there, and this will be the source of your next warp cell. Of course, we could warp immediately, but first we have a little bit of business that we need to tend to. You might remember in the last video that I said that you should scan everything that you can lay your beady little eyes on. That includes animals, plants, rocks, minerals, planets, you name it. Whatever it is that you can scan, you should be scanning it. And this is for a couple of purposes, one of which you're going to find out a bit later in this video. But if you're not scanning things, I'm telling you, you're going to regret it. Now, if you haven't seen one of these before, these are called knowledge stones. And knowledge stones will teach you a word in the language of the various races that inhabit the universe of No Man's Sky. You have Viking, Gek, and Korvax. Initiating one of these stones will teach you one word in the language, and the more words you learn in each language, in each alien tongue, you can increase your standing with that faction, allowing you better prices for bartering and a couple of other perks. Longer story made much shorter. The more words you know in any given language, the better. There are other ways to acquire words in the various languages in No Man's Sky, so don't go too far out of your way to hunt down these knowledge stones. Just if you happen to come across one, go ahead and grab it. Once you're ready to move on with the main quest, you'll go ahead and interact with the monolith here. Interacting with the monolith, once you're done with the dialogue, will give you a warp cell so that you can warp to the next system. I always choose to warp to the next system, though the quest dialogue does say that you can explore the current system that you're in, so the choice is yours. And sometimes when you're scanning around with your analysis visor, you will find gold or yellow icons. Typically these are valuable items or objects of interest, which you will definitely want to harvest, so it's worth going to find them if they're nearby or you feel like doing a little bit of a run so that you can go track them down. However, it is also important to note that, like the larval cores that we discussed in the last video, harvesting these can be dangerous and will trigger a level 3 sentinel alert, so if you're not ready to battle some sentinels or run for your life, it's best not to harvest them. This is a sentient plant, and it can give albumin pearls or gravitino balls, which are also worth a pretty good amount of money. Sometimes you'll also come across these ancient data structures, which will give you some navigational data. Navigational data can be exchanged on the space station for planetary charts, which will lead you to other items of interest and different curiosities on planet. They're a great tool to use to explore. Also mentioned earlier was scanning planets. Every time that you go into a new system, you should scan all of the planets that are in it. Scanning planets will allow you to upload data about those planets, which can give you nanites and is also useful for purposes that we're going to mention later in the video, so be sure to stick around for those. Also important about scanning planets is that it reveals some of the materials that are on the planet, so if you're looking for specific material, be sure to scan the planet first. When you're satisfied with your exploration of the current system, it's a good time to warp to the next system, or at least this is my preference, in order to continue on with the main quest. Once you've arrived in the new system, what you'll have to do is probably fly around for a little bit to get the emergency comms to trigger. Once the incoming transmission is received, it'll give you the coordinates to another planet, where you will find the stranded stranger, shall we say. Once you get on planet, the coordinates that you've received are a bit imperfect, so you'll have to use another portion of your analysis visor, the target scanner, in order to find the location that you're looking for. After you've set off in a direction, it's important to use the target visor or the analysis visor again to make sure that you are still on target. It does take a little bit of honing in order to reach your final destination, and this is true pretty much any time that you use it. Once you arrive at the crashed ship, it's also a good idea to investigate any damaged machinery that you find. This is true of damaged machinery anywhere, because it can sometimes contain S-class or other class upgrades for your mining laser and other tools. Once you've discovered the ship and started the next portion of the main quest, this will be for your advanced mining laser. We'll get to the advanced mining laser toward the end of this video, but for now, you'll also want to take a look at the ship that's crash landed on the ground. The issue with the ship is that it's broken. So you'll have to have some materials on hand in order to repair it. Really, all you need to repair is the launch thrusters, but you may have to repair the pulse engine as well. You can take it up to a space station and sell it. It's a good source of early game money, especially since some of these ships are worth a few million units. If you only repair the bare minimum, you'll probably get 100,000 out of it, but when you scrap it, it'll also give you some materials. If you're interested in learning about ship scrapping, maybe let me know in the comments below and I will cover it in a later video. Another good tip to make note of is that you can actually summon your ship to your current position should you have run too far or just are lazy and you don't feel like walking back to it, or whatever the case is, as this will be especially useful later on in the game when you have more efficient launch thrusters. But you can summon it to you for the cost of some of your launch thruster fuel, so if your launch thruster is empty, you will not be able to summon your ship. At this point, you're going to be ready to get started crafting the advanced mining laser. However, in order to craft it, you also need wiring looms in addition to the hermetic seal and the carbon nanotubes that you require for a lot of other repairs. In order to get wiring looms, you will actually need a fair bit of money, so now's a good time to use some of those money-making methods that we've already discussed, or harvest some rare materials, do some exploration, and find out how you can earn a little bit of extra cash. Larval cores and gravitino balls and things that we mentioned earlier are a great place to start. And if you want a money-making guide from me in No Man's Sky, please let me know in the comments below. Once you've progressed the main quest and either chosen to repair the starship, sell it, or repair it completely, or just stick with your old starship, you'll be greeted with another portion of the main quest line, and where you are invited to board the Anomaly, which is another version of the space station. This version of the space station is a lot more fun and will be your first foray into the multiplayer aspects of No Man's Sky. When you land, you'll actually see other players' ships and you'll see other players running around. Depending on your internet connection or their internet connection, they may warp and jump around a little bit, but for the most part it's pretty stable. You shouldn't experience any weird glitches or issues. And it brings a little bit more life to No Man's Sky, I would say. And once you go upstairs and you talk to your priest entity Nada and finish the dialogue options, you will then be prompted to speak to Polo, who is directly across from him. After speaking to Polo, then we get into some of the portions that I was mentioning earlier about why you need to scan everything in this game. So the first iteration that you'll run into here is iteration Helios, and each of these iterations will expect different items and data from you in order to give you nanites. So planetary data, other discoveries, milestone data, and occasionally an exchange of items will give you sometimes hundreds of nanites in return. So all of those things that I scanned earlier granted me hundreds of nanites, milestone data in addition to all of the things that I scanned, and every day you can go back and transmit more data if you've discovered any more things, and you'll get more nanites. So it's a good way to farm nanites in addition to some other ways. If you want to know how to farm nanites, you can check out, there are plenty of other videos on YouTube. In the back room here, when you go to the right, instead of going to the left to talk to Nada and Polo, first you'll notice that there is an exosuit upgrade module there. Always get the exosuit module upgrades, not only on the space station, but on the Anomaly in every system. Also, there are a number of different upgrade paths that you can take, and each stall has a different set of upgrades. For exosuit upgrades, my path is always to start with jetpack upgrades first, and then doing maybe the translator second and the hazmat gauntlets third, but really it's up to you. You can spend your nanites however you want. I like the jetpack upgrades because it gives you more mobility. For construction blueprints, you will still need salvage data. If you don't know where to find it, check my last YouTube video on No Man's Sky Beginner's Guide. It'll be linked in the video description. However, I always like to get the battery pack and the solar panel first, because they make it so that you don't have to spend so much time and resources generating power for your teleporter and other electronic devices. Moving on to starship upgrades, I think that upgrading the hyperdrives, or warp drives as they were, are the most important for spending nanites early game. You can't get them one at a time. I prefer to just buy them in one fell swoop because there's something very specific that I will cover in the next video about what I like to do with them. It involves money making and also base building, especially for the early game. It's my favorite thing to do, to just get the hyperdrive upgrades out of the way. Next, my upgrade path involves the efficient thrusters, because I get really frustrated with having to constantly recharge my launch thrusters in my ship, so I'll install that upgrade as soon as I'm able. Next up is the multi-tool upgrade vendor. I usually like to get the scanner upgrade in the far right. You don't have to get it. I didn't have enough nanite clusters for it this time. Also, the weapon terminal on the space station and on the Anomaly are a little bit different. They'll have different weapons and different weapon classes available. Wanted to craft your own microprocessors and other rarer materials or source materials, then this is the place to get the crafting recipes for it. It'll also cost you nanites. I'm sure you can tell that there's a trend here. You're going to need a ton of nanites, so get accustomed to farming them as soon as possible. Up next, you'll go back to Nada and have a chat with Nada again. Once you're done chatting with Nada, then you can leave the Anomaly if you would like. But first, I would like to cover some of the multiplayer aspects of No Man's Sky. The Nexus will allow you to do some multiplayer quests where you can queue up with other players. You can queue up with friends or with strangers. They give rewards in Quicksilver and sometimes in rare materials or just in necessary materials, so they're always fun to do. I like doing them. The multiplayer aspects of No Man's Sky have come a long way and they're a lot of fun, so definitely give them a try. And the vendor where you can spend that Quicksilver is actually located to the right of the Nexus. When you go to the Quicksilver vendor, you can purchase a number of cosmetics, upgrades, emotes, and things of that nature. You can also get Twitch Prime rewards if you've been watching No Man's Sky streams on Twitch. That's what you can use the vendor for. Once you're done, you can get back into your ship and just go ahead and head on out. You're done with the Anomaly for now, but you will almost never be done with the Anomaly. If you continue playing No Man's Sky, you'll be using it for the rest of your playthrough. But back to the matter at hand, which is the main quest. You'll have to go back to a space station in order to locate the galactic terminal, and in this case you're going to buy wiring looms. If you made enough money in order to just buy them outright, go ahead and do so now. I like to buy a stack of them, or as many as I can, because you'll need them for other recipes as well, but it's entirely up to you how many you buy. You'll need at least 2 for this recipe, which will cost you 100,000 or so credits. Once you're done buying everything that you need, or if you haven't built it already, then you will go ahead and finish off your advanced mining laser and you're ready to continue on with the main quest. I would also like to cover some terminals and stuff located on the space station. The multi-tool vendor actually has an upgrade terminal, so if for some reason you don't want to ditch your current multi-tool for a new one and reinstall all your upgrades, you can actually purchase expansion slots and other things, so you're welcome to do that here as well if you have the materials and the funds to do so. Each of the merchants on the space station offers upgrades in exchange for nanites for whatever specific thing it is that they're peddling. Exosuit upgrades, multi-tool upgrades, starship upgrades, and the like. So if you do want to purchase upgrades for them, you will also need nanites for those as well. The exosuit upgrades will offer you a wide range of different benefits, so it's important to look through them and see which ones suit you, especially for movement upgrades, life support upgrades, thermal protection upgrades. All of those are very important, especially as you start getting into different biomes or planets with heavy or severe storms or that drain your environmental protection or life support much faster than typical. So definitely browse those and browse the other upgrades for your starship. Maybe you can get a better pulse engine or launch thrusters like I was talking about earlier. I don't make much use of the exocraft, so I don't typically use the exocraft terminal very much, or the trader, but if you have nanites to spare and you do like using the exocraft, more power to you. In the back room here in the space station, you can locate traders like this one who will sometimes exchange money for upgrades. You just give them, 10 or 15,000 credits, and they will give you really cool upgrades for your exosuit or ship. Also, the additional NPCs in here are hireable for your base later on. Talking to life forms on the space station is also a good idea, especially in the early game, as you can learn more languages and find some unique surprises. Additionally, on the space station, you can use the mission agent to embark on quests that aren't necessarily multiplayer. You can do some single-player quests here, which have a pretty wide variety, so take a look at them, and you can get some different materials and also standing for different factions as well. Once you leave the space station, you should be able to pick up the planetary location for the Hollow Terminus, which is how you're going to locate Artemis. Once you've landed on the planet, you should see the Hollow Terminus is pretty easy to identify. It's a tall tower. You're going to climb up to the very top of it and interact with it, deposit some sodium, and it will trigger the cutscene and appropriate dialogue response from there. So finish that, find out what that has to offer you, and then build you some signal boosters and find out exactly what happened to Artemis. The next video is going to cover information about warping between systems, the different types of star systems that you can find, advanced economies, and a bunch more. So be sure to come back for the next video. I'm Toilet Vodka. Thank you for watching, and remember, subscribing is free.